primary care is an innovative, alternative path to insurance-driven healthcare. Typically, a patient pays their doctor a low monthly membership and, in return, builds a lasting relationship with their doctor and has their doctor available at their fingertips. Welcome to the My DPC Story podcast, where each week you will hear the ever so relatable stories shared by physicians who have chosen to practice medicine in their individual communities through the direct primary care model. I'm your host, Maryal Concepcion, family physician, DPC owner, and former fee-for-service doctor. I hope you enjoy today's episode and come away feeling inspired about the future of patient care, direct primary care. Well, my DPC Story listeners, thank you so much for tuning in today. This is such a wonderful time of the year. We're gearing up for meeting each other in person at all these summits, including Hint Summit at Rosetta Fest that's coming up in August. And today we're really going to be highlighting the sense of community that Hint's bringing to the DPC ecosystem. And my two guests today are Dr. Brad Brown. You've heard him on the podcast before. He is a fellow family physician who opened his DPC, Strive Direct Care, while in residency. So I'm so excited to hear an update as to how his practice has been going and also his wisdom looking back on his opening times up until now. And then our other guest today is Brad Butler. He is the head of sales at Hint Health, and he has significant experience supporting DPC doctors on their launch journey. So thank you both for joining me today.
Great.
Thanks for having us.
We're excited about this.
Pretty rare you get two Brads in one podcast
It is.
episode.
It's a treat, folks. It's a treat.
So guys, let's jump in. And Dr. Brad, I wanted to start with you because, again, you've been on the podcast. It was quite a while ago, where it was like literally 100 episodes ago-ish. And so much has happened. You've had a PA join your practice. You and Dr. Schuster are still going crazy with your growth and just being established in the community. So tell us, what's the update on Strive?
It's crazy to think it was 100 episodes ago. That's pretty amazing growth for you as well. So I'm an avid listener. I love it. I love hearing other people's experiences and trying to apply it into, Strive into my clinic too. So yeah, myself and Dr. Schuster, she's on the other side of this wall for those of you who can see. But we hired a PA, Alexis. She has 25 years experience. She has her own little niche. We're just growing nice and steadily. I thought there'd kind of be a plateau, but it just keeps going. And I'm shocked every month. Every month, it's like, how in the world is this still rolling like this? And it's a lot of fun. It's a wild ride. There's always little tweaks and things we can do. And it's fun to bounce ideas off of other fellow DPC docs, say, oh, what works for you? This is working for us. This isn't working for us. And trying to apply it. So to basically dovetail what you already said about the community, the DPC community as a whole is awesome. How many friends and mentors do we all have that you can just text or call and be like, hey, what do you think about this? Or, hey, how are you growing or so quickly or anything like that? And it's been a lot of fun. In the North Denver area where I am, there's been 5 or 6 other DPCs in the last maybe 18 months that have opened as well. And, we're all kind of close. We have a group text, which is really cool too. And they've all sat on this couch right here and they ask all the questions. And I say, hey, I'm just one clinic. So you make it your own, but this is kind of what worked for me. So it's a lot of fun. I wouldn't trade for anything.
And I think you have a unique perspective, not only because of you opening Strive Direct Care in residency, but also you had created this electronic health record that has now become Hint Clinical. And I think that it's really powerful in terms of your journey as a DPC physician, but also someone who's very much in the tech space and the workflow space, somebody who's been challenged about like, oh, we need a new thing to do this process or whatnot. So I would love if you could just give us some high-level takeaways on the coulda, woulda, shouldas now that you've been in practice for a while, given that you can look back on what you started with and where you are now.
No, that's a fantastic question. I think the short answer is I should have hired a virtual MA about like 3 years before I did. That was like the best decision we made because we all wanted one as well. So she's phenomenal and I highly recommend doing that sooner rather than later. But from a 30,000 foot view, it all goes back to your why, right? I didn't mean to start a clinic during residency. It kind of was just the snowball started and I didn't want to stop that momentum. And so as it kept going and learning on the fly, I wouldn't change anything. There's some things that I wish I could tweak here and there, like I said, but with that, the clinic piece with the tech piece with Hint and formerly, our DPC, but having that perspective, it's my why was I wanted to change the American healthcare system, right? Just in my own space. For the person sitting on my couch right here, I want to change the world for them type of thing. With Hint Hint is very mission and vision aligned to how I see DPC. And so it was a no-brainer for me to, be the medical director, for the lack of a better term, to where I can use my platform with Hint to help DPC grow. My voice is much louder in the DPC space because of the platform Hint allows me to have. And so it is a coulda, shoulda, wouldas. I wish I could have every clinic, every doc that I talk to be in DPC, but obviously a lot of them don't do it. But it is, I think we are all experiencing the change and the groundswell of physicians and employers and families, everything like that. People want something different, and DPC is just tailor-made for that. It's phenomenal that Hint was historically in the DPC space as the membership management piece. And then as Hint Clinical came about and everything blossomed there over the last 2.5 years, obviously I'm a little bit biased, but I'm a huge fan because Hint is the only company in the space that's investing every spare dollar back into DPC with Hint Summit, with the Launch Bootcamp, the DPC playbooks, Hint Connect, the employer trends reports, all the data and everything that comes out too. It's really amazing to be part of a company that is fully invested, all in mission and vision. And so that's why I personally am all in as well, because it's easy to get behind a company like that.
Yeah, one thing I'll add to that. Thank you, Dr. Brad. And there's no surprise that you're growing at the rate that you are. It's exciting to see. One thing about Hint is we're talking to a lot of DPCs or a lot of physicians who are looking to join in the DPC. And there's a lot of questions on what is it? How do I do it? And so we have the benefit of that vantage point across so many data points. And there's a lot there, right? There's no surprise that all the things that a DPC would need to consider to start and launch their practice are not things that you were trained on, not things that you did before. So there's a question of where do you go? And that's really where Hint and its ongoing mission to really support the ongoing direct care movement and make it the new standard is really coming into play. And how do we support folks at that level to ensure that they not only launch their practice, but they grow and scale it with success? So there's a number of things that we're doing with that. And one is a great just DPC startup playbook that we have. It's online. It's on our launch page of hint.com/startup. And it's a long checklist of things like that. How do I think about pricing? How do I think about values? How do I think about mission? How do I think my legal, my malpractice? How do I get my branding set up? How do I think about selling my memberships and services to my retail plans? There's a lot there to consider. And so it's a great, great checklist to have. Once you have that, then there's the question of, okay, how do I do it? And that's where I know this term gets thrown out a lot, but it's really, really true, is community. And so that's where a lot of folks are coming in. And there's a lot of resources that we're really excited to continue to invest in at Hint. So one is every Hint customer joins the Hint community. And you have access to all the conversations that people are having, like-minded questions that are just coming up for folks that have been doing it before to folks who are experiencing for the very first time. And how do I learn from those particular groups? Bootcamp is another great way. So for all practices that are looking to launch in about 3 or so months or so, there's a cohort around 12 weeks long where every week we're going through different topics around all those things that DPCs continually talk through. So not only is it the checklist, but it's a lot of groups that are running the same situations. And it's really fun to see the conversations that come with this. I know Dr. Brad sits on these conversations as well as a mentor too, so you get the good sage advice of him. But they're talking about how to talk about memberships. How do I sell this? How do I go to employers? Practicing their pitch. How many times do you get that opportunity to have like a staging ground where you can really kind of trial and test something and fail and get better at it? And that's a really exciting thing to see with all the community.
And Dr. Brad, I want to lean in here too to your experience. You shared in your podcast before, you were in the DPC Docs Facebook group as a second-year medical student. What types of things do you see being part of the Hint community and being, part of the voice of the startup toolkit that is really helpful that you really want people to know in addition to what Brad Butler said?
Yeah, I see the value is everything is right there, right where you need it. When I was a second-year medical student, gosh, was that 6, 7, 8 years ago now? And I snuck in that group even without an NPI number. That was kind of where everyone was going for information. But with the Hint ecosystem and the Hint community, everything's right there. It's really easy to access. It's free. I mean, you can just use it to help start your clinic, and the partnerships, everything from legal to marketing to branding, everything like that it's right there at your fingertips, and it makes it easy. And all of the people who are 1 month, 1 year, 10 years ahead of you, there's very few 10 years ahead of you because DPC is still so young. But those people are there to say, hey, this is what I was doing, a month ago, a year ago, 10 years ago. And so the value is you almost can't put a price on it, because it's being able to just talk to people is the beauty of DPC, right? It's not an AI generated chatbot.
Absolutely. And let's talk about the movement now, because, this was so fascinating at Hint Summit last September, because you guys are looking at data from multiple clinics who are using Hint in different forms, Hint Clinical, Hint Core, the membership billing and management services that Hint started with, and more, Hint Connect. I would love, Brad Butler, especially if you could share some of the high level takeaways in terms of the data that you are seeing about the movement, because I'm sure there's some people in the audience who are like, I don't really know if DPC is really a thing that's going to continue in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the first message is you're not alone in that. And so we have been, I think, anecdotally feeling the movement. I think energy-wise and excitement-wise, we've been feeling the movement. We've been seeing some new faces, some new names join every year, both at Summit, but just in every DPC-focused event that we've seen across the country, and the conversations. And so the question has been, all right, well, what are the actual numbers? What is this representing? Because you hear things kind of getting thrown out every once in a while. Our team's done a ton of work on trying to really hone down on, hey, not only what does the DPC market look like, but how is it growing with these new founders and these new physicians that are starting their own clinics. So there's now 3,600 DPC practices across the country, which is really exciting. But even more exciting part of that we found is that since 2022, that number has grown on average about 20% year over year. And so that's moving at a really high clip. It speaks to both, I think, what's happening right now in the traditional fee-for-service and healthcare systems and why people are moving over. But I think more so is that growth is around pointing that there is another way, and that people are showing success in this. And so that's been a really exciting thing. The other piece of it too that we're seeing as well is they're thinking more options. They're thinking more kind of possibilities out there. So it's, hey, what can I do on my traditional primary care service that could be a different service line that's interesting to my local population, my local community, that also frankly have a diversified revenue stream to that. So we're seeing a lot of interest now of what we're calling almost DPC plus, which are DPC's baseline services with different kind of add-on services around weight loss management, hormone therapy, more kind of wellness-based services in that particular way. And that has just kind of morphed to allow a lot more opportunities for folks.
That data really helps in terms of just giving a general picture of how amazing this movement is just plowing forward, because patients are demanding it. Communities are demanding to have access to high quality healthcare, and not specifically insurance. When it comes to the future challenges, Dr. Brett, I'd love if you could tell us about the future challenges that you see people being concerned about, especially when it comes to how do I grow a panel? What types of things are you hearing from the community that really addresses the good problems that people have, the future growth of these practices because people want DPC?
Yeah. What I hear often when docs current and in the pre-contemplative stage ask when they call or text me is, am I always on call? That's always the one question. Do I have to answer text all the time? It's like, that depends on what you want to offer. But also it's hiring is always a big one that comes up to, when do I hire? How do I hire? Because most docs, we have no idea how to hire people. What do I need to look for? Because we're all, me personally, I'm a people pleaser. So if I'm interviewing someone, I'm like having a good time, having a good conversation with them, and I think they're great, but maybe they're not the best fit. I've hit home runs on all 4 people that I've hired. I don't consider myself an expert in that at all. I'm just, the people that have approached me to want to work here were phenomenal. Things like that, to where the tech stack, basically all of the Hint ecosystem with clinical and core and even a little bit of connect, can take the burden of the day-to-day monotony of being a doctor off your plate. So then you can learn how to run a business. You can learn how to hire. You can learn about, payroll, things like that, because those are things that you can totally learn. Doctors are bright people. We made it through med school and residency by studying, for crying out loud, so we can learn those things. And the growth piece is what the exciting part is, to where, we all hear and see and feel that excitement at conferences and podcasts, of course, and everything. And then, it's like one patient signs up every 2 or 3 days, and you go from Googling private jets to food stamps within a swing of like 2 hours, But then when you look back month over month, you're like, actually, I'm having good growth. And my projections were, looking at the awesome reporting, is my my projections were I'd cover my expenses in 12 months, and now I'm actually covering them after 3 months. That's way ahead of schedule. So yeah, it takes a little bit of work, but the hint tech stack really does remove the burden of, okay, I need to go document, I need to go chart, I need to activate, I need to collect the payment info. It does it all, everything so seamlessly to where you have the time and mental bandwidth to go be a business owner.
It really speaks to the person who, especially most of us are in this bucket, where you are wearing a lot of hats, especially on day one.
One thing that I think may just be helpful for the audience is where we're really aiming with our kind of tech solutions within Hint and just overall offering is reducing the barriers of entry for DPCs. And when it comes to the technology itself, it's what are all the things from the EMR, from the patient communications, and all the things you need to do to optimize around that interaction to all of the back end billing, all the administrative aspects around membership and how you're billing, who you're billing, really reducing and having one single spot to manage all of that. And then having kind of a one step back, a further kind of ecosystem in which you can help folks move those barriers even more so. So through different ecosystem partners that we have within Hint, there's a lot of other great tools out there that can be part of an ecosystem, or other great services and partners that are also part of that can also be helping with that. And so Hint can kind of help curate those options for folks. And then there is the other avenue of like, all right, now that I have these things, what are the things I can go out there and engage with my community with? So one example, I know I've been talking about community a lot, is there was a particular customer just recently who was sharing a story around how they have an opportunity through a recent cancellation of a Chamber of Commerce. And this is a brand new practice coming through, but there was a recent cancellation. So they were taking advantage of the opportunity to be invited because of this. And they stepped in, they're hustling, working so hard to get all of the last minute preparations made, the collateral, the assets, all the things, because the audience is going to be quite wide. And you can see and hear the excitement going. And there's just one thing to note that I thought was so powerful that was left and quite honestly understated in a lot of these conversations. And the comment was, I wasn't sure who to share the excitement with other than this group right here. Like, I love that. That is a fact where people can go share their stories, see what they're running through, and have this excitement, because I think it reinforces the lesson overall of like, never do this alone. And so that's what we're here to do and help support people along with.
Brad, tell us more about that, because I feel that as you're talking about how this person was really empowered within community, tell us more about the boot camp for those people who are wanting to learn more and wanting to lean into, oh my goodness, there's a place where I can go to specifically for help with these things that I need to get my clinic off the ground.
Yeah, so this is a relatively new offering that we're really excited about with Hint. So this is a boot camp where folks who are a few months out of their launch can join a cohort, and it's 1 to 2 hours a week, roughly. There's going to be some homework. We always ask folks to do that. And it's walking through all of those things that you need to do to get a practice started. Now, I think you can always go into ChatGPT and say, hey, drive me a 12-week program to launch a DPC practice, and it'll give you a lot of great stuff. But the value is in the people, and bringing together the people who have done this before, the mentors, the subject matter experts. And so that's what we're aiming to do, is every week we have different topics with different modules that focus on different things, from how do you design your office to how do you think about sales and marketing? How do you think about core values, and everywhere in between, to get people really, really launch ready for that really, really exciting, but also likely very frightful day.
It's a lot of fun. I know I've said that a few times on this call, but the boot camp is, I guess my role is kind of mentor. We just finished our second cohort today, our second 12-week cohort today. One of my favorite parts is each week, the curriculum, we have local community experts, if you will. So we have, everyone knows Phil Boucher. He comes in and he does a talk on marketing. Lauren Tancredi, who is popular in the DPC world as well. She goes over websites. So if you have a website or a landing page, she'll go over with a fine-tooth comb right in front, like in the class. And so, it stings a little bit. She went over mine, and mine's 5 years old now, and she's like, you need to update this. Just things like that. And then, I do a week. There's a CPA and a financial guy does 1 week, and it's just little pieces here and there to kind of draw on everyone's experience. And it's fun to see, people who are all I'm going to start in the next 6 months, which is an arbitrary time frame, right? Or we had about half of our cohort launched halfway through the bootcamp. And so it was cool to see, okay, we talked about this and then I went and applied it. And then this is actually what I learned. It was really cool to see the back and forth and the discussions, even asynchronously in the community boards later, but also on our weekly call as well. So it's really boots on the ground stuff. And the startup world is kind of where my jam is. I love that.
And I think part of that too is to join on this is we do have an upcoming cohort that is going to be starting May 6th. You don't have to be launched right then, but it's really exciting to just be part of that. So call to action is join us. It'd be great to have you at Bootcamp. And when we do them every quarter or so, but it's really exciting to see the ongoing momentum.
You can join a couple weeks later. People do that. You can catch up.
I love it. So one thing also I want to call out is, again, like I mentioned in the very beginning, as people are listening to this podcast, also what is going to come up is the month of August, and that is when Hint Summit is going to be at Rosetta Fest. So could you guys tell us about this? Because I think it's so serendipitous for people to be hearing your words, hearing about the community focus that Hint is bringing. And when it comes to meeting people virtually and then meeting people in person, it's a very different thing. So can you talk about what is down the line with all of these opportunities for people to connect and then ending with people connecting in person?
Yeah, this is probably Hint's most exciting time of the year. And we have a lot of exciting times of the year, but Hint Summit is, for folks who haven't joined, not only is a good time, but it's really that kind of culmination of all the ongoing work that individual DPCs have been doing on the networking side, launching their practices and coming together as a larger community to say, hey, not only celebrate our wins, but what's happening in this space? Where are things going? And so we bring together and curate a lot of different speakers and cool things to participate in this. So yes, it is in August 24th to 27th in Denver this year. We're actually joining up with our friends at Rosetta Fest, which is really exciting. We're going to have very specifically a DPC content track at Rosetta Fest. So with speakers and sessions and events around DPC specifically. And it's a good moment in time too, because one thing to note is employers are looking at this. They are hungry for this service. And it's a really good avenue. And it's one of the biggest questions we get is how can I tap into that employer market and how can we look at that?
When I was getting started, especially in residency, I heard from other DPC docs, hey, employers is a great way to get quick growth. It's like, oh, quick growth, cover your overhead, a good shot in the arm, if you will. And in my mind, I was like, oh, I'll get to it. I'll get to it in the future. I don't really have time to go walk around and knock doors and pitch to businesses. I've read all the books and talked to as many people as I could. And what I've learned as well is there's a little bit of a long lead time. It's not like a company's just going to call you and say, I'm going to sign up my 20 employees. From that first point of contact, there is a decent amount of time before someone signs up. And so I was approached by actually Nextera, of all people, Clint Flanagan, who's now a good friend. I was kind of in his neighborhood, if you will. He's here in the northern Denver, northern Colorado area. And he said, hey, we have a lot of employers that have employees in your area. Would you want to be an affiliate? And we can Nextera affiliate, and we can basically just send patients your way. And my first reaction, when Clint listens to this, he's going to laugh because I tell him this all the time. My first reaction was like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be affiliated with anyone. I want to do my own thing, But then I quickly realized that that's not actually how it works. And it's just a really good way to get more feet in your door and get the word out more about your own personal clinic. And so it's kind of how Hint Connect works. Hint Connect, Nextera, all these affiliate type of networks, to where it's a way that employers can have their own network of DPC docs. And it's not like just my own clinic here in Erie, Colorado. It has to take care of all of your employees that are all over the country type of thing. And being a part of the employer scene a little bit over the past few years, I'm excited for them to be paired with the Rosetta Fest for Hint Summit. Is these employers are going to see the joy and they're going to feel that excitement from DPC. And it's only going to fuel that fire more. I don't know if I have any hard data, Brad Butler, you'd have more than me, but I know that the employer adoption rate for DPCs is going through the roof right now. Looks like, I think Hint measures 801% growth from 2018 to 2022. And I'm sure that's even more now for what employers are offering DPC as a benefit for their employees. So I see it as people working with employers, people who would never have found your own clinic. They would never have found you, but now they're offered a benefit to their employer. And now they see the amazingness of your DPC clinic is a phenomenal way to grow your own clinic and the movement as a whole.
Yeah. One thing I would say for the folks out there who think, oh my gosh, employers, that seems hard, is it's moving certainly in that direction more and more. So a bit of numbers. So over 6,500 employers now in the US have a DPC sponsored plan or offering DPC memberships as part of their benefit package to some degree. And what's interesting on that is if we look at of all the memberships that Hint helps manage for our customers, the start of 2022, that number was 43% of those memberships were being paid for by a employer sponsor. Now, fast forward to today, that number is 58%. And that's just in 2 short years that we're seeing, that's 2.5 short years that we're seeing that change. And so I think the market's there. As we know, premiums are going up and up and up, and employers are really looking for a solution. And that's just where it's a really nice match made there. And it's a really great avenue to diversify your panel mix and find other options too, that just doesn't have to be solely on the backs of building out retail plans. And so yeah, participating members can now be a Hint Connect site and receive those members for those employees and their families that are in your particular neck of the woods. So it's a really great opportunity to not only get this in front of employers more, but then also an avenue to bolster up your panels and serve those local communities.
For the listeners, I'm sure you're just ballooning with inspiration and excitement about what to do next. So make sure you go to hint.com/startup. The link will also be in the show notes. But we've mentioned so many things: the startup toolkit, the bootcamp, finding kindred spirits in community, and also going to Hint Summit to meet these people in person. How do you guys see DPC as a movement empowering people to practice amazing primary care?
Which DPC is here to stay. I mean, it's not a fledgling movement anymore. The data is backing it. It really comes down to there's so much uncertainty in the world right now, right? With the financial markets, with government, with healthcare, with you name it, that with AI, I mean, people really resonate and they love being able to speak to a human, right? And meet in your office or on the phone or meet them where they are. And that is what is very professional and fulfilling for me. And I've seen a lot, I've heard a lot of other DPC docs kind of echo that as well, to where burnout, sure, there's a little bit of burnout in DPC, but it's a different type. It's almost so good that you're getting burnt out of so much amazingness to where you need to go on vacation from it. But DPC is here to stay. It's growing quickly, and it's really because the demand is there. And so I'm not biased at all, I promise, but maybe just a little bit.
Yeah, I think just the opportunity for time and regain control and agency of one's life allows you to direct in the way that you want it to direct it. And I think that's just generally a cleaner burning fuel for DPCs to stay motivated and not having to deal with all the burnout and all the things that are happening. So I get excited about just the time availability that people have, because then you're spending on the things you want to. Is it building the business? Is it helping advocates or helping a patient member navigate through a tricky situation through the healthcare system? There's a whole bunch of things that folks are doing. And that's where folks, even though they're working hard, working diligently, they're rejuvenated every day. And that's where I find the most optimism in.
Amen. And I definitely will say that Dr. Brad and I can attest to that. Absolutely. And everybody we talk to in our community is so enthused that this movement exists. So again, if you are a person in medical school, just like Dr. Brad was, or residency, if you are thinking about it, reading about it in social media, DPC is out there, and DPC is accessible as a business model for you to deliver in your community. So make sure you grab that startup toolkit. Go to hint.com/startup. The link will also be in the show notes, because you're going to be empowered with that checklist. Also, it is a resource for you to even learn more about how to work with employers through Hint Connect. Make sure you check out the bootcamp. Find your kindred spirit again in community. It is so important, given that a physician is not necessarily always an MBA, and you need that community around you to help you get through. And again, I would love to see you all in person, August 24th to 27th in Denver, Colorado, at Hint Summit at Rosetta Fest. So again, thank you guys so much for joining us today. Thank you so much for listening to all the listeners. Make sure that if you are going to go to Hint Summit, get $50 off your registration with the code HINT50. That's HINT50. And thank you guys so much again.
Yeah, this was a blast. Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure with you, Maryal.
Thank you for listening to another episode of My DPC Story. If you enjoyed it, please leave a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. It helps others find the show. Have a question about direct primary care? leave me a voicemail. You might hear it answered in a future episode. Follow us on socials at the handle My DPC Story and join DPC Didactics, our monthly deep dive into your questions and challenges. Links are at mydpcstory.com. For exclusive content you won't hear anywhere else, join our Patreon. Find the link in the show notes or search for My DPC Story on patreon.com. For DPC News on the Daily, check out dpcnews.com. Until next week, this is Maryal Concepcion.